In this video, I am giving you 10 soccer tips for kids and beginners. So if you are a younger player or you're just starting out, these are going to be perfect to help you grow as a player faster so that you're developing what you need to develop so you can play at the higher level later on. That's coming up next. What's up guys, it's Dave here from Simply Soccer, and on this channel we are producing weekly content in order to help you improve your game and stand out on the pitch. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any of the great videos that we release. Now in this video, like I said, I want to give 10 great soccer tips for kids and beginners, but even though these tips are more directed towards kids and beginners, it doesn't mean as a more experienced player you can't use these tips or gain something from them. That being said, let's get right into the first one. And tip number one is to work on the fundamentals, to build that foundation of fundamental skills that are going to help you develop more advanced skills later on. But the fact of the matter is, even as you go up levels in football, there is always a focus on the fundamental skills of football. The last thing you want to have happen is you get older, you go up levels, but your passing isn't so great because you didn't work on it that much as a kid. Or your ball control is lacking because you weren't focusing on that fundamental enough as a kid. Working on the fundamentals is one of the best things you can do as a young player, as a beginner, to improve quickly, because everything branches out from those fundamentals. Other advanced skills, other subtle, nuanced skills come from those fundamentals, but they're also used the most in the game, that more than any other skill. You know, ball control is something you will be using multiple times every single game, passing and receiving as well, shooting for certain players as well. And so you really want to be focusing and working on these fundamentals very often. I would say every single week, probably at least a little bit every single training session, if you really want to grow quickly as a player and be more effective in your matches as you start to progress through the game. Second tip, and this kind of plays off that first one, is you want to develop good habits. There are many habits that players develop that actually hurt them later on, and these can include, for example, always having their head down, not being aware of what's around them, not working on things like their confidence, their attitude being poor. There are many different habits, little to big, that you want to start developing early on that are just going to help you more and more as you become and as you grow older and as you move up levels. I'll give you a very simple one. A habit a lot of players unfortunately develop is they get very frustrated on the field when they start making mistakes. And a good habit to start developing early is to learn how to get over your mistakes pretty quickly and get back into the flow of the match. This is an issue I actually had as a kid and had to get out of the habit of doing as I got older, but I still wish I had developed it more as a kid for when I made a mistake, I would be able just to bounce back immediately. And this is just an example of a good habit you want to start developing early on as a beginner or a kid. Number three is have fun. And I know that's a simple one, but you know, a lot of players forget usually the original reason that they got into football. And you know, for me, it was always because I loved the game. I loved playing it. Sure, I was good at it, and that definitely makes it more fun, which is why improving and using these tips is going to be very valuable to you, because it will make the game more fun and less frustrating. But have fun with the game. You know, have training sessions that are fun. Go for a kickabout with your mates. You know, have fun with it, because at the end of the day, yes, you need to be serious if you want to grow into a better player, but never lose that playfulness when it comes to football. Never lose that fun vibe that it comes with. Number four is do individual training consistently. A lot of young players, especially when I grew up in the States, I'm originally from England, but I came over when I was 3, and I noticed, at least in the States, a lot of players would just train with their team, usually just once or twice a week, and they wouldn't do their own separate training. And if you want to become a much better player, especially younger or as a beginner, you need to be putting in that individual training pretty much every single day. And again, this doesn't need to be grueling, just be consistent with it, which we'll get into. But if you're doing that individual training consistently, you're going to see massive improvements in your game. Yes, team training is going to be great, but there are things in team training that you're going to do that you won't do in your individual training, and vice versa. There are things in your individual training you get more of than you would in your team training. So make sure you are developing some kind of routine of individual training, as it's just going to help you grow so much faster. Number 5 is, if you can afford it and if you're really serious, get into a training program. When I was a kid, I would go to camps, I would go to all these different things, and of course that was on my parents to be able to pay for that when I was, like 7, 8, 9 years old, or even a little bit older. But if you can, you can buy training courses online, for example. Many people offer them. I offer them. You can even check out my training courses if you go into the link down below and go to the Simply Soccer Academy. But a lot of these courses aren't that expensive. They're usually always under $100. Mine, for example, is $29. And if you want to get a leg up, it's always a great thing to do instead of going blindly in the dark, especially if you're a parent or a kid who's very new to football. You want to have some guidance on what's actually going to help you improve. And so getting into a training program is a great way to do that. Going to things like summer camps or clinics is another great way to do that, because you'll get coaching right then and there. And then you can take what you learned there back into your individual training. But getting some kind of guidance, whether it's from a course, again, which I like because it's very affordable, whether it's at a camp, which are more expensive. Clinics are usually more expensive, but if you can afford them and it's something you want to do, definitely go for it. It's definitely good to get that guidance instead of just fumbling around in the dark without a light trying to figure out what to do. These courses, the camps, the clinics basically give you that light and move you in the directions you need to be going so that you're saving time and saving, not getting as stressed out. Number 6 for you beginners and you kids who want to improve is to watch football often. So many of the things I learned as a player when I was younger was watching professional matches all the time. I even remember quite distinctly when I was 7 years old, I even remember the age, I watched a professional match before I went off to a match on my own, and I saw this guy do this move, beat 2 defenders and score, and I replicated that in my game and scored a goal doing the exact same thing. When you watch a lot of football, you start to pick up on patterns, you start to pick up on things, especially if you're a young player and you start watching football a lot as you grow older. You'll start to pick up on things like different movements you need to be doing. You'll start picking up on how to do different things, how professionals do them, how the best of the best do certain things. And you want to start developing those habits of learning from those best players. So watch professional matches often, watch football often. If you're a parent, it would be a good thing to help your kid or get your kid into watching those professional matches often, and maybe even analyzing those matches with them as well. Again, it's not a requirement, but I find that improving your football IQ is important, and this is a great way to do it, especially at a young age. And I remember falling in love with football at a very young age and learning so much about it through watching the World Cup, through watching the Premier League, through watching all of these different professional matches. Number 7 is to play on a team, and do it often if you can. And this is more towards beginners who usually get a little up in their head about joining a team because they're beginners. For kids, most players are obviously starting out that beginner level, so usually it's not too difficult. But if you're a beginner, just get yourself on a team. It doesn't really matter what level at this moment. We'll work on that later. But get yourself on a team, because you need to be playing that 11v11 or whatever it is for kids. Usually it's like 8v8 or something. But you need to be playing in those real matches to get that real match experience. And even if you're not great right away, it's okay. Through your individual training, your team training, and all the stuff in this video that you'll hopefully be doing, you will get better and better. But don't shy away from joining a team even if you haven't already. You need to get that match experience. You need to get in that team environment. That's going to be so valuable for your growth as a player. And so you need to be on a team. And one thing I used to do as a kid, I played as often as I could. So even if I was on a team, I would always try and find other teams I could play on. I would always, if they were indoor teams, I would try and join multiple ones. I remember when I was in high school, I would try and sneak onto the B team after I played for the A team in my indoor team to get more minutes. And whenever my high school coach was there, he didn't like that, but I was able to get some more minutes by doing that. And so you want to be playing as often as you can, especially in that team environment, because that experience is going to be so valuable for you later, and you're just going to develop more and more the more matches you play in. Number 8 is actually playing off this last one, and it's do not be afraid to move up levels as you get better. A lot of players will stay on the team they're comfortable in, even if they're the best player, even if they're what's called a big fish in a small pond. When you are obviously better than the rest of your team, and I don't mean to say that so that it seems like you're being big-headed. It's not. It's just being honest with yourself. You dominate the matches. The competition is too easy for you now. It's time to move up. And don't be afraid to do that even at a very young age, because the better players you're exposed to, the better players you're playing against, the better you're going to get. And the longer you can do that, where you're continually challenging yourself, the better you're going to get throughout the years. So if you find that, okay, you've grown past this team, even if you're a 7, 8, or even younger kid, and you found, okay, look, I've been doing individual training, none of these other kids have, I've been getting better and better, and for you parents, if you recognize this as well, I'm not saying immediately take him out of the team, but start searching for more elite teams in the area or wherever else, because that's going to be hugely beneficial. You know, my game dramatically jumped when I moved club teams, and they were 2 to 3 times as good as the club team I was on previously, and I got 2 to 3 times as good because I was around better players in every training session, because I was playing against better teams, nationally ranked teams, all this kind of stuff. So if you have outgrown the team you're on now, never be afraid of moving up levels or looking for a new team that's more suited to your level as a player. Number 9 is to work on your confidence early. And for parents, you know, a great skill to help your kids work on is their confidence, instilling them with that self-belief. Because I can tell you, I've met many skillful players, and I've had this problem too before, that just were inconsistent in their performances as they got older because they started doubting themselves, because they didn't have the confidence. But when you're a confident player, you play better. There's just no way getting around it. You become a better player if you're confident in your ability. You're confident in your ability to bounce back when you make mistakes. You're confident that your form will come back if you're going through a rough patch. You're confident that you can keep the momentum going when you're in a good patch of form. So developing that confidence early on is so important, because that's, again, another foundational skill, I believe, that just helps you grow as a player. So for parents, for kids, for beginners, anyone who's listening to this, develop that confidence early on as much as you can. It's a skill like anything else. It's something that's learned. It's something that can be taught. It's something that you gain through experience. But to actually have awareness around growing your confidence is going to be so valuable, and is going to help you in other areas of life as well. I do have a free course on confidence building, 7-day confidence building, if you are interested. Also in the Simply Soccer Academy, you can check that out. Again, completely free, no strings attached. That will help you with soccer-specific confidence. So check that out if that interests you. Finally, the last tip I want to give, and there's so many other tips I could give, but I want to give this as well. It's work on specific drills, deliberate practice, and to start getting into the practice of deliberate training early on. And what that means is you're not just training willy-nilly, you're not just training in a way that's general, you're focusing on very specific things. You're training in a very deliberate way, using almost like the 80-20 rule. What are the things that are going to bring you the most results? Now for me, one of the ways I like to do this is to focus specifically on my position. Sure, I'll do general stuff like work on my fundamental skills, and then I will work on things I know are going to help me stand out in my position. Now for many of you, you might be very young to the point where you don't know what your position is yet. So if that's the case, it's okay. Same for you beginners. But if you do, if you know, for example, I am a striker, I'm a great goal scorer, I'm going to be a striker, for the foreseeable future, or I'm a midfielder, or I'm even a goalie. What specific drills for those positions can you use to help you stand out? Because I can tell you there are 1,000,001 players that are good at everything but don't have that X factor, that don't have that thing that helps them stand out in matches. What can you do to develop those things that separate you from the pack? Could you be an amazing goal scorer who works on their runs all the time, so they're always finding space in the box to score, has incredible finishing and composure because you deliberately work on those things? So what specific drills, specific training can you do to elevate your game to the point where you're standing out? This is more of an advanced idea, and isn't necessarily one that is, I think, required at such a young age, but it's a good thing to think about, especially if you know what kind of player you are already or what kind of player you want to become. All right, guys, I know this was a longer video. I wanted to get those all out there, and you know, these are just tips. You know, you can research each one of these more in depth, but I truly believe for all you beginners, for all you kids, even those of you who are more experienced, that all of these tips are going to help elevate your game, to help you in so many different ways as you get older, as you become a better player. And if you implement all of these and you stick with them, I promise you, you will see massive results over time as you do it. So get on it. Make sure you do it. Thanks again so much for watching this video. Please make sure you like it and you share it with any other kid or beginner player who